Hello, amigos, and welcome to your performance novela, Us the Performers. Aside of my usual invitation for you to give like to this video, to leave comments below, any questions or anything, and tell your friends about this attempt to be an awesome channel, today I want to invite you as well, if you speak Spanish and want to follow up with my channel in Spanish. This is not the only one channel in English for Señor Performo, so look for YouTube, follow, subscribe, and do all of those fun YouTube stuff in the Spanish channel. And again, I want to thank you for being on this episode. I hope you have a lot of fun. Let's begin. Hello, amigos. Welcome to your performance novela, Us the Performers. After the last episode, some of you ended up wondering what types of performance tests exist that are not load tests. As I mentioned, there are many. As an example, and as I said, I mentioned you could measure performance where there is no activity in the system. Today, we will talk about more examples of performance tests that you can do without generating load. As I keep telling you, not all performance testing is load testing. They are not synonyms. Please beware when referring to each one. They are not interchangeable terms. You need to refer to each one differently. Now, with that aside, let's begin. On all the performance testing that is not load testing, we can also use automations. They are not exclusive of load testing. But at the same time, automation should not be our first effort for performance testing. Beware of that. Then, it's time to finally get into some examples of the types of performance tests that we can do that are not load. There are even some that generate absolutely no activity. In other words, no load. Beware. Now, let's talk about those first, the ones that generate null activity, nada. And you may be asking now, what would we measure if nothing is happening in the system? But that is precisely what we are interested in measuring. There are many circumstances when we may want to see what happens when nothing happens. As an example, think of a system that just stopped being busy, or a container or a database. We might be interested in measuring, after the system gets no more activity, how fast does it releases resources such as CPU, RAM, etc. Or, as well, talking about the container, we might want to measure how fast or completely it turns off or is decommissioned after the activity ceases. Same with the database. We might want to measure how long is it keeping data on the cache before releasing it. These examples are picturing the scenario of a cease of activity, nada. But there are other ones. We might be as well interested on measuring activity from zero. As an example, when the system is turned on, we might be interested in measuring how long it takes to be completely on, or as well to measure what is the base consumption without activity, just for the sake of being on. Something like measuring a car's temperature or gas consumption just for the fact of being turned on, without moving, without hitting the gas pedal, it's just turned on. The base consumption often is counted when we measure the total consumption during distance per volume of fuel, when moving. Of course, when moving. But many times the problem is not the movement, but the car might be consuming too much gas or fuel without moving. It probably might require service or be defective, who knows. But moving away a little bit from our car example and back to systems. I mentioned that we could want to know how fast does the system take to turn on. I don't know, this could be part of the process of measuring system recovery after a crash. There are scenarios where we might be interested in how fast does it come back from being dead. All these performance metrics from no activity mostly just need some good performance monitoring. Don't worry so much about automation. But as well, we have tests that require some activity, tiny bits of activity. So little and tiny that we don't usually consider them to be load tests. But they definitely are performance tests, as we will be measuring, well, performance with them. So we have two flavors of these low activity performance tests. The first one is organic and the second synthetic. In other words, generated by organic people or synthetic automations. Organic and synthetic sound kinda fancy, right? The terms often make me think of a vegan Terminator. Okay, but in all seriousness, back to business. On one hand, we have already mentioned some organic triggers on past episodes, if you remember well. This counts from real flesh developers debugging or even manual testers testing the system. Some of those manual testers could be functional testers, user acceptance testing, and many others. It could be up even to final production users working in small amounts on the system, on the final system. You know, in those practices that have the end user as a guinea pig on release strategies such as Canary, Blue-Green, and many others. As you might be guessing, we can measure the performance of these organic organisms. No automations are needed. Again, just good monitoring. And now, finally, what you all have been waiting for. We're going to talk about synthetics. In other words, performance automations, synthetic automations. Again, beware, I did not say load automations. They could be used for load, but they may have other uses, not just load. Beware. Most of these are used just with one thread or one V user. Or even just a few, let's say maximum 5 or 10. These are used to monitor what the system performs, that the system performs well, constantly, without degradation, or because of new code check-ins that can cause a problem, or even to detect if the system has gone down. Again, none of those test load. This could be used as tiny automatic executions that must be run as an example by the developer or the continuous integration platform right after a check-in to verify. Another function is as status verifiers, running every few minutes and measuring the base performance. Those could be triggered every 5, 10, 30, 16 minutes, but the point is to keep running and be able to detect if the performance changes during time, not by volume, little by little. Again, this is due to activity issues or could detect code changes or situations that happen in the system. And now, at last, these automations work as well as some of the pings of the system checking if it is down. These tend to have to be synthetic, as automation will keep trying and reporting even if the system stays down for a long period of time. Organics do not work here very well because a person walks away from the system if it's down and might not even report us, and we want to know. And well, amigos, those were some of the examples and descriptions of performance tests that are not neither use load, no load. All these are as important as load tests. Please be aware of that. And as usual, I'm gonna give you an invite. If you want me to describe deeper any of these, please leave a comment below. I want to thank you all for watching this episode, and for now, thank you again very much, and Señor Performo out. Adiós.